We're going to pivot. Planning on talking about something else this hour, but the big trade happened at the very beginning of our night here, just after 2 a.m. in the East. The trade breaking in the middle of my Maller monologue was talking about the World Series and the fact that the Texas Rangers had beaten the Diamondbacks, so they're up 2-1. Hadn't even gotten to the Monday night football game where the Raiders look like a Pop Warner all-star team and against an NFL team. And the trade happened. So headline this hour from Hooptown, USA, as it came down the pike in the overnight. If you have not heard, a spooky Halloween trade. The 76ers are saying bye-bye to James Harden. Na-na-na-na, la-la-la-la, hey, goodbye. They're kicking him out of Philadelphia across the Delaware River. Well, actually, the other direction. James Harden is doing something that Dame Lillard could not do. He is going to his preferred team of choice as the Sixers are sending James Harden to the people's team, the Los Angeles Clippers, in the overnight. Here's the nitty-gritty on the trade. James Harden, P.J. Tucker, and a player no one's ever heard of, go outbound from Philadelphia and inbound to Los Angeles. The Clippers say bye-bye to Nicholas Batum, Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, who used to play in Philadelphia, K.J. Martin, and a gaggle of draft picks, second-round picks, a first-round pick swap here, trade over there. So the transaction happened, as we said, at the beginning of the overnight. Now that we have had a little bit of time, just a little bit of time to let this marinate, we are going to discuss in more depth the James Harden transaction. So let's do that right now. The question, what are your initial takeaways from the James Harden trade? So I've got Jerry Lee Lewis, tic-tac-toe, and SpaceX. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a more competent game show contestant than my friend Baker Keith. Now, I like Keith. He's a nice guy, but terrible at playing the game show we had last hour. So let's start out with the Maller report card. The number one instrument that is used to judge trades is the Maller report card. So the Maller report card, here's how I have it on my scorecard. If you look at the CompuBox stats and break down the numbers, the Clippers get a C+ on the Maller report card. C+ for the Clippers. The Philadelphia 76ers get an F-. That is an F- trade for the Philadelphia 76ers, and we'll get into it. So, we don't like the trade for either side. I think we've made that perfectly clear. The Clippers gave up nothing of note to get James Harden. So it's not like you can be all that upset that they traded some amazing building block to get the beard in L.A., but from the Clipper perspective, it's like, wow, this is a Hall of Famer, and he's amazing, 10-time All-Star, he's got this record and that record. And while all of that is true, it is certainly not a slam dunk, a breakaway slam dunk for James Harden. If it was, he would probably miss it, and we all know why. There's a lot of excess baggage fees when you get the full, all-inclusive James Harden experience. There's a lot of extra baggage that he brings. And is he a Hall of Famer? Sure. Does he also bring a canister of gasoline and a flamethrower wherever he goes? Absolutely. And he's reunited, it feels so good, with Russell Westbrook. That'll be the third time these two have played together in the NBA, with Oklahoma City and in Houston, and now with the People's team. But James Harden, the word is melancholy. He's like a melancholy guy, right? He never seems all that happy. Maybe he's bipolar. I don't know. He'll go through stretches where he's okay, and then he'll go the complete other direction. His joining the Clippers is like a Jerry Lee Lewis special. Harden shows up to town, and it's goodness gracious, great balls of fire. And he's holding the flamethrower, and there's fire, and everything will be great. There'll be the honeymoon period to start. And then at some point, either Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, or Russell Westbrook will offend James Harden, or Ty Lue will do something to annoy him, and then watch out. The flag is up, and who knows what's going to happen, but he'll be fine for the short term. I have no doubt that regular season James Harden, he'll get himself in shape, he'll put up great stats, he'll facilitate the offense, he'll move the ball around, get good shots for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and Russell Westbrook and all that. But long term, we know how the story ends. We've seen the manuscript. We know how the story goes. It is fire and brimstone. It is everlasting torment that James Harden, on his way out of the Clippers, will rip Steve Ballmer. He'll say, I hate Microsoft. I hate everything, blah, 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 blah. That's just how he operates. All right, now page 2. So how does James Harden fit in from a basketball perspective for the People's team? Well, as you know, we do Hardo Sports Talk Radio here on the Ben Maller Show, unless we don't. But it's complicated. That's the word I will use. It's complicated. It's not straightforward here because this is what the stars of the Clippers want. And make no mistake, from everything I've heard from people around the Clippers, this is what has been going on behind the scenes for months. That Harden was advocating to leave Philadelphia, but the stars with the Clippers were like, hey, yeah, we'd like to have James Harden. We'd like to get him. So the Clippers don't make this trade unless Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have their blessing to make the trade. So therefore, they're all in cahoots. Right? This turns out to be a giant boondoggle. The front office will be blamed, ownership will be blamed, but the Clippers had the wink and the nod from the star players. And here's the problem. James Harden is an acquired taste. And there's a lot of moving parts. And last I checked, maybe I'm wrong on this, there's still only one basketball. They're not going to play with two basketballs, which is a problem. And I mentioned this earlier, and I want to kind of straighten it out a little bit more, straighten the take out. So Harden has a reputation for vanishing and being a Houdini in playoff games. This goes back to his salad days with the Rockets, when he would be great, and then he'd have a game where he scored 8 points. And Harden was actually, ironically, part of one of the darkest days in Clipper history. He sat on the bench during the Lob City days. He was playing for the Rockets, James Harden, and the Clippers had a double-digit lead. They were one win away from going to the Western Conference Finals. That would have been their first Final Four appearance. And the Rockets, Kevin McHale, benched James Harden. And Josh Smith and Corey Brewer led the Rockets back in that game. Harden was a spectator, didn't play a second, if I remember correctly, in the fourth quarter of that game. But this comes down to what I call a tic-tac-toe situation for the Clippers. Now, the regular season, nobody gives a rat's ass about the regular season. The question becomes, in the playoffs, you've got Kawhi Leonard, who gets hurt all the time. He's Humpty Dumpty. You've got Paul George, who has his own issues, his own demons, and Russell Westbrook, who can't shoot from beyond the arc. These guys have all vanished at different points. So you got to go tic-tac-toe. These guys have to be on agreement where on a certain night, we'll write an X down next to the name Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They're not playing well that night. And then the next night we put an O next to the name of Westbrook and Harden, and those guys don't play well. As long as they don't all suck on the same night. That's really the point here, to make sure that they don't all vanish at the same point. And then the Clippers will have a championship, which I think everyone wants to see the Clippers win. I don't know anyone that doesn't want to see the Clippers win. They're the people's team. Who doesn't want the people's team to win? All right, now, last word here. So what does this trade do for the Sixers? They get the F- on the MALLER report card. So this is where it gets really, really thick, really gummy in Philadelphia. Daryl Morey was talking the talk. He's buddies. He will not get ripped. The Sixers will not be ripped in the media because Daryl Morey is besties with so many of the prominent basketball media people. They never trash Daryl Morey. The only one that trashes Daryl Morey is James Harden. He's the only one. But the basketball media, they do not trash Morey at all. But he's not going to be ripped. But this is a Mark Twain special for the Sixers. What's old is new again. Deja vu, which is a place James Harden has spent a lot at. This is a different kind of deja vu, though. And it's back to bedrock. This is a SpaceX situation. Now, what do I mean by SpaceX, right? The Sixers traded James Harden. Now, granted, Harden's got baggage, as we said, but in return for a first-ballot Hall of Famer right next to Muppet McGraw in the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, where Alf the Alien Opiner lives in Springfield, Mass., right next to that, the Sixers traded James Harden. They got back a little canister, not even a large canister, a small canister of potato salad and a bag of yams without marshmallows. That's what they got in return. There's no razzmatazz to this. They got a bunch of spare parts, the Sixers. So, to tie this all together, the SpaceX, if you will, the Clippers have traded a bunch of junk to Philadelphia, and the Sixers have now cleared the launching pad as Joel Embiid can jump on the rocket ship and say bye-bye to the Sixers. Guarantee. He now has an out. Joel Embiid has an out. I wanted to stay, but I would have stayed, however, blah, 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 blah. And we can project ahead here. James Harden, does he go to the Knickerbockers? Where does he go? Does he go to Miami? Where does Joel Embiid end up? But he will not be in Philadelphia. He is the next one to exit stage left. That will be collateral damage of the James Harden fiasco as he goes to the people's team, the Clips.